Use my affiliate link to support the channel down in the description. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mad Games GX here, and we are joined by. Who are we joined by?
We're joined by Rob, and I just won UK Nats.
Congratulations, brother! And what did you run here? What deck? The best
Oh,
deck?
what else? What else could it be? Of course, it's the branded.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, no, you killed it, brother. Very big nuts, very long event, and you ended up taking it all with branded. So, and I think this is branded's only nationals win this national season,
Yeah,
and
I think
and
so. Yeah.
won an event to win it with. So I think that, very well deserved and well earned. And I wanted to catch up with you and just, guys, I'll link down to his original deck profile so you guys can see it right there, his reaction right after getting the win. Highly recommend checking out. I wanted to have Rob on to talk about his theory with the deck and get a little pretty like in depth with the deck and really see his thoughts maybe going into the next format too. But I wanted to at least get go into the matchups and then go, or before that, go into why you made those choices, because it worked out very well for you. So would you have any shout outs or anything that you wanted to plug before we get into it?
Well, first of all, I just want to shout out to everyone back in Portsmouth, UK. They've put up with me with branded for 3-4 months at this point. I've learned so much by playing with everyone. We've got quite a good locals set of locals down here. With lots of different meta and whatnot. So that was a really good testing circle. And yeah, thanks for putting up with me. Couldn't have done it without more.
They put up with all the gimmick locks. It's okay.
Yeah.
It was all worth it in the end. So yeah, no, okay, then let's get into it. So we see you're on 50 card build, and I think that was probably the most interesting aspect about it right off the bat, because like a lot of people have been going for either these like really like close to 40-42 card lists, like you saw Clifton Land get top 16 at YCS Raleigh with, and then you see people like Yuri Diaz and even Nightfall Dimitar, who just got top 8 at German Nats, and then obviously Yuri getting top 16 at YCS Indy with a 60 card build. What brought, or I'm sorry, I think Dimitar was on a 50 card build, my bad. So
Yeah, I think it was.
correction
Yeah.
on that. So either way, what brought you to the 50 card build between, the other kind of builds going on?
Yeah, and I've tested, over the past 3 months, similar to like 40 card lists, and the 60 card lists, and they're both with their advantages and flaws. Like, 40 was, obviously the most consistent, but also, I couldn't draw on, enough board breakers, or sometimes it would kind of lack that, power. But then the 60 card lists, you had like the crazy draw power, but then there's so much power in it, but also I wouldn't see my board breakers and the stuff that I kind of need. And I find that 50 was kind of the perfect balance, yeah, and consistently as possible, also able to draw kind of what you need really. So
Yeah, no. So no, that totally makes sense. And like just like the fact that you're able to see your side deck in a 50 card build, I think is really huge. Like I've been very much like, I started grinding DB for the first time recently, and I started with like a 40 card build. I was like, I'm gonna go hyper consistent, but then I didn't have enough for a grind game. I get hand trapped and I'd have to play through a board. I'd be left on like one card. Then I went to like the 50 card build, and or no, I went to 60 card build, and then I couldn't see my side deck. So like I feel like the 50 card build is like kind of like that nice middle ground that allows you to actually like still, because you have things like Ash Blossom, which in a 60 card build, I think might not work out in the side deck, but Ash Blossom, for instance, I mean, we could even just like start off with that. How was the side deck experience at 50 cards? Were you able to at least like see the things that you needed in the matchups that you needed them?
yeah, no, definitely. And I think, again, with the 50, there was, I had 6, 7 cards, which I was just quite happy to take out no matter what, without affecting kind of the overall, consistency and power of the deck. And kind of that was my side deck was kind of built around. It was, in every matchup I have, 6, 7 cards which I can take out, and not really affect anything. And, having that allocated side pattern before I go in really did kind of help, and know what kind of I'm expected to play really. So
Okay, yeah, and we'll get into that when we get to the side deck. I guess we could just begin with the main deck. I mean, we have two Aluber off the bat, which I thought was very interesting. And you explained this in the deck profile, but did you end up liking the two Aluber overall by the end of the event? You didn't miss the third?
No, no, not really. I mean, again, it was kind of the hands that I couldn't play with or couldn't push through were having too many normal summons or too many monsters in my hand. And kind of when I was kind of testing, the free Aluba was kind of contributing to that, having multiple Aluba or with an opening with a Quem. It just I need every card in my hand to be live. Especially when you're facing down Snake Eye going second, you need everything you can get. So that it was it was contributing to those types of hands really playing free. So.
Yeah, no, like I've noticed like with this like losing against Snake Eye going second, a lot of the times the hands will either be strip bricks, but most of the time it will be like hands of normal summons like a Luber, like Albaz. It's like obviously the contact fuse is the thing, but just for instance, a bunch of normal summons isn't great into a Snake Eyes board, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
So I understand the ratio in cutting that. You do have the standard, of course. Three Albaz, and then we have the three Cartesia and two Quem, which I personally really love those ratios. You did those in terms of the two Quem, three Cartesia. What brought you to that conclusion versus maybe like the two Cartesia or maybe one Quem?
Yeah, so I did see a lot of people kind of cutting down on the Cartesia to the two, and I get it. It's definitely something, and it was definitely something I sided out the one Quem and one Cartesia when I would go second, but it was mostly there to play around hand traps and stuff like that. Like a lot of people are on Mourner, Veiler, Imperm, in the lists, and even a Ghost Ogre I had a lot of, but it was those sorts of hand trap. Cartesia helps you play around that stuff, and I found that Quem came up a lot because just your turn one setup, and it's always nice just to have the second one and come on through.
Yeah, no, for sure, especially through like Nibiru or anything like that. I feel like that, and just like in like you said, in the format with just like 9 effective like imperms, it's really, I feel like Artesia really invalidates like certain hands, which is super nice.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you run the 3 Shrouded Dragon, which I think it was kind of standard in the beginning of Branded to run 1, but it seems like kind of the standard now to run 3. I think it's just that consistency. I mean, we see you running Allure and High Spirits. I mean, if you want to talk about that a little bit, but it seems like that's a great pick for your deck.
Yeah, and I think in the 60, I was kind of on the triple Saronir, the triple High Spirits, which kind of came up. So 2 was kind of 2 High Spirits was kind of what I went with, cutting down on the dragon count because I just love High Spirits. It's just to play around Ash the best way you can. That was really good, and obviously the triple Shrouded is just crazy. Just the setup, the upstart, it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, and so then we see the Bestials, and you obviously ended up running the 1 Magnuma on top of the standard Saronir and Lubellion for the Lost package. How was the main deck Magnuma overall? I know that's a little spicy. It's been in and out of Branded decks here and there.
Yeah. So I'm not glad I didn't see it all day. It was in the yeah. I was it was all right with testing because it replaces itself going second, and again it was a drag count, but I could it could be anything else, to be honest with you, man. Yeah.
Would you ever maybe go to like another Saronir? I don't know if you've ever tested with that, maybe as more of a combo piece.
Yeah, I mean definitely it was in the 60 list it was definitely the Saronir, but. Yeah, I think it could quite easily be a second Saronir there. Yeah, definitely. It was definitely something which I thought about, after the event, thinking it could be, yeah.
I mean, there's a fun card we've been testing with the Bestial Luber. I don't know if you've ever tested with that. It's a little bit of a brick, but you can send it off a Saronir, which is kind of neat, and set up like Cartesia plays and like red plays. So that's always something to be funny with.
Yeah,
but
no, I saw that like in a lot of the runic kind of things, like the that stuff. But I've never actually considered it and branded, so it might be something for me to look at.
Yep. Raul ran it in his second place list. I've been kind of in and out. I do like the Bestials personally. I like some people have been cutting them lately. I just think they're really nice pieces for comboing and then just like into certain decks. Obviously it's not a light and dark meta, but I think just like the fact that Saronir can help you combo. Then you have the Magnemite for the Rhoda. I mean, I think Magnemite would be standard in the side if not the main, so I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
either
exactly.
way.
Yeah,
So yeah, then we have the standard other little bricks of the deck. We have, I mean, we do have the Spriggan's kit, but that's really standard at this point. Some people don't run it, but you run the high spirits. And then we have the tragedy double Mercurier because I think you said in the deck profile specifically because you were on the Allura package, you ran the double Mercurier, right? Yep.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, there was things which every time I had a law, yeah, I would want that second Macoria just because just to protect the puppet, just have that extra protection. And there was a couple of times as well, which it felt kind of dirty just to go activate a law, chain high spirits, just to grab a little bit like a law chain opening to grab tragedy. It was a similar aspect to it, and whilst it's like a 3 card combo, it was just it's filthy, just a filthy setup, to grab the Macoria off the high spirits and then you're drawing two and searching again. It's yeah, crazy.
Yeah, no, I understand, especially why you're running the kit though too, because you need more of those Albaz targets for those banishes, and so yeah, no, totally makes sense. And then the last monster, of course, is the gimmick puppet. So yeah, no, not too much to say right there.
Yeah, nothing
Um,
to see said there.
yeah, famous last words, ban gimmick puppet. You heard it from him first. Um, and then I'd say when we get into the spells, we actually have a really interesting setup with the branded spells because you're running one branded in red, plus the standard opening infusions, one loss, and then two high spirits. So what were I think you mentioned you might have been testing on two, but ended up running one branded red. So, what was your logic going into the one branded in red, and did it really come up or not?
Yeah, so I mean, I was testing with two Brandon Red for ages, just for the grind and whatnot. But as I became like kind of playing the deck longer and longer, I was able to. I think you're able to kind of resource that better. You've got retribution, you've got tragedy. If you want to set it up for a following turn, and yeah, and so the one red never, I never really got needed the second. So that was pretty nice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then we have the three thrust, super standard. You have the two talents. Did you end up liking the two talents? Maybe why not three or why not one? You just like the two ratio?
Yeah, so it was one of those. I was on three in my 60 list, and then it was just kind of taking down one just to kind of help fit it into the 50. You can always grab it off the thrust if you need it. So yeah,
Okay. And then for the rest of the board breaker package, I guess you do have the Forbidden Droplet, and Allure of Darkness is kind of a board breaker I consider sometimes, like Nightfall has said, because it helps you draw into, things like
yeah.
Droplet into talents, as you said. So was Droplet great for you this event? Were you ever considering any other board breaker like Super Poly or Book of Eclipse, maybe?
Yeah, so I did some testing with Book of Eclipse, but I just felt it was a bit too. It didn't do enough against Snake Eye sometimes. It just doesn't really affect the links, and I guess it does in some ways. I just didn't feel it did enough. And Super Poly, I just didn't feel it was a good enough meta for Super Poly at the moment. I think it comes in waves for Super Poly, but I just don't think it was a good time for it. And I consider Dark Ruler. Main deck. You can search it off Rust and whatnot, but I just like the utility of having a quick play in Droplet. So
Yeah, no, that's a very nice option. I think in Droplet or Dark Ruler is something I've been considering too. I just like the utility of Droplet, like you said. So that totally makes sense, and I bet it was insane for you all day when you saw it. And then for the rest of the deck, I mean, we have the Foolish, we have. Oh, we do have the Gold Sark. I was like, where's the Gold Sark? And Retribution, Fusion, Duplication. Did you ever test with multiple Fusion, Duplication in the main? Because we see you with two in the side.
yeah, I took a lot of. I really liked because Yuri played it and free in his 60, I believe. He mained all three, and I really did like testing of it and just having that aspect of it. But I couldn't really find the room for it, and I just kind of sometimes it wasn't the best going second I found, but yeah, so hence why I found them in the side really.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, for sure. I think High Spirits is a bit better than that card going second. Like at least High Spirits is like can be a board breaker since it can get you into Mirror Jade in the end phase. Worst case scenario, whereas like duplication, the issue is going second. I think is like it can get popped. Also in like a 50 card build, it's like consistency issues. I guess if you're running multiple, so I think that makes sense. And I mean, we have the extra deck. I'm not sure if there's anything to really consider with the extra deck. I mean, I don't know if you've been testing other ratios with the extra deck, but I feel like a lot of players are coming to the conclusion that the extra deck is pretty solved right now for branded. I don't know if you want to talk on that at all, or if you had any picks or monsters that stood out to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of summed it up pretty perfectly there. I mean, I think Alba Lenesis is probably like the most recent addition, I'd say, to the extra deck since like Tenpai came into the meta, and just I just found having that set up with you know even having Mirror Jade send Rinbrum, and a lot of the time just bringing it out in their battle phase and fusing. Yeah, I had it a couple
So
of times
good.
and it felt so nice, so nice. Yeah.
Yeah, if you just don't have it, it's like, oh, okay, like sometimes you can't do anything, and then also against the Snake Eye board, sometimes a Snake Eye player who doesn't really know the branded matchup will just fall to a set Albaz, contact fuse off their Hope Harbinger, and then you can attack into their Apo and their other monsters. It's really nice. I think that
Yeah,
card
yeah.
is pretty really good right now. Uh, and then you mentioned the double Guignol for our favorite puppet lock, of course. I just love to see that becoming standard now because most brand players were not on one, and then it's just like more really nice lines came out and just realized that people realized like that card is honestly one of the best cards in our extra deck. So I completely see, and we see the Boral. I mean, we'll go over the matchups, but I'm sure Boral came up if with I mean if you were I mean you did play a stun matchup, so that probably or you played two stun matchups, so
That's you.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yeah, you did. So yeah, Boral probably was MVP there. We'll talk about that when we get there, and then we can go over the side deck. We have the Shadal Dragon. Shadal Dragon. How did you end up liking this pick overall for the tournament?
Yeah. I mean, I loved it. I put in so much work. I mean, so we'll get into my matchups a bit, but it was coming in every time. I faced down so many skill drains because I think a lot of the meta, I think it kind of evolved because, um, I mean, with branded, I think a lot of people kind of on dim barrier kind of before, the free dim barrier, but now Snake I've kind of evolved into skill drain, kind of just siding free, and I think every time I went second against Snake Eye, there was a skill drain set. So it came in clutch having the
Wow,
dragon there.
that's super nice. Okay, then yeah, I think that's pretty standard or pretty staple for branded. It should be just in a meta with skill drain when you could just go branded fusion. I send the Shadal Dragon totally makes sense. We do see the 3 Ash Blossom. How was the Ash Blossom for you in branded?
Yeah. I mean, and again, it's so I really liked Ash because I found it was quite impactful in certain matchups I needed. You got the branded, you got Tempai, again, which it can kind of slow them down in order so you don't die really, and any stun matchups, and I think the advantage with all that is people should be siding talents out against branded, going first and one because they shouldn't expect hand traps, and so just having that Ash which you can just use without any consequences is pretty good. Yeah.
That's a really good point, actually. I don't really ever tend to bring up. That's a really good point. Did you miss ever like running a crossout package with also running the Ash, or did you not really find yourself needing that for the D barrier?
Yeah, and I think I kind of back on that point. I was looking at kind of what people were siding. As I say, when people were kind of on more dim barriers in the side deck, I was looking at the crossout package to kind of go with the ashes and with the dim barrier in order to kind of play around that. But as I was seeing, especially the Snake Eye decks playing less and less of dim barrier, I was kind of like, well, actually, I would prefer other things. And I think you can kind of play around Ash with high spirits, with when you're using a law as well. Some people would kind of be scared or reluctant to do that as well, Ash that. So I think you can kind of play around it a little bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also multiple fusion duplication. I'm sure helps that too, which
Yeah,
you
of
see in
course.
the
Yeah.
side. And, was that great for you at least when you sided in?
Yeah, huge duplication is great. It is like not just out against Ash, but also in the mirror as well. Just
Oh,
be able to,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, there was a couple of times that I got gimmick puppet in game one, and I was able to thrust for fusion duplication and just kind of play on their turn and puppet them back, and it was kind of crazy. Yeah.
That's super nice. That's super nice. And then we see for the rest of the side deck, it's really kind of board breakers. We see the Feather Duster, 2 Dark Ruler, Herald of the Abyss, and 3 Evenly Matched. Now, was there anything that you would change in the end with this board breaker package, or was this solid all day for you?
Um, so I think that yeah, it was pretty solid for the most part. You know, I think the one thing I would change is the Herald of the Abyss. But to be honest, I just kind of wanted to respect Pearly. I
Yeah.
didn't know how much it would be. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of thought rarity collection, maybe a few more people might, pick that up as like kind of that as an option. So I just kind of wanted to respect it really because not my side deck couldn't really match that, to be honest with you. And so I think I just cut a dark ruler for that kind of last minute, but honestly, it never really came up. So
Okay, and then the one of Masquerade. So nothing to be said about the Tack Dragon. We'll get into the matchups then, and if you want to get into the matchups, and I could just ask you questions about them.
yeah. I mean, we can just kind of get into the matchups, as I say. So yeah, and you can just ask me
Okay,
questions
sure.
whenever. So, so I mean, round one was just to kind of summarize with Nats, you can face anything. And I lost the dice roll to Draco stun of all things, um, which is just scary stuff. Which when you're facing down like border and skill drains and everything, it's scary. It's scary. I think what I had to do in the end, like it was droplets branded in red, but just came up clutch in this matchup. So I think game one I managed to kind of win. Because I was facing down skill drain was it was a crazy. That was like normal Aluba, use the effect, chain branded in red. So to make the Chimera, Aluba resolved, grabbing fusion, and then I would Chimera chaining one and then Droplet chaining two in order to kind of
Oh
half one of his
yeah.
monsters and negate it, and then kind of do all that. I popped the skill drain and the erupt they had set, which was kind of clutch. And then Brand of Fusion able for Furious Dragon to kind of clear up the last, and it was kind of crazy on that. But yeah, it just shows that you can face really anything on that. So
Yeah, that's one hell of a round one, and to then win too. Very nice after losing the die roll. Very nice.
yeah,
Round two,
yeah,
it looks like you played against another stud, which is kind of crazy.
yeah. And I say stun because it was kind of a cash tier. So obviously, yeah, cash tier is in the meta, but it was like this list specifically. He was on main deck skill drain, which really caught me off guard.
Yeah.
So I think I went first, but it was a clunky hand, and yeah, I think it was a hand that lost to imperm. Unfortunately, yeah, and I got impermed, and I think I was stuck on thrusts and whatnot in my hand, so I wasn't able to kind of push through that. And then on the crackback, he had like four monsters and he skill drained me, and it was just yeah, I couldn't push through that game one.
Yeah.
Game two, I think I just puppet locked. I played through a hand trap, I think, but it puppet locked strong. But then I think game three, he had pretty much a similar setup, which he did to game one, like a load of monsters. But I had an evenly matched, but it got judgmented as well. So it was like skill drain four monsters, and he was just able to push through on the crackback. So that was just I took an unfortunate, quite early loss there. But yeah,
No, yeah, that's
it was one of those things, couldn't really play around it. So
yeah. The main deck skill drain is really rough on that one, and you ended up going against Salad for round three. So yeah, definitely having a kind of wild spread there.
yeah. And Salad, it was um, so I think so game one, he kind of ended on like a Rage Raw setup. But I managed to get open and engraved quite early, so the Rage was kind of redundant. And then I think I grabbed Lost to force him to roar it, and then I was able to brand infusion, kind of crack his board, and then puppet him on his turn. So that was kind of a again pretty all right there. And I think round game two, he was had a similar setup, but my hand wasn't as strong. And I think time was kind of becoming a factor. So I was like, right, okay, we'll go to game three, and again I was able to puppet him and set up a pretty good board to be able to push back. So yeah, kind of won that one.
Very nice. Yeah, no, I think that branded loss is key in that matchup when you're going second. If you're able to get that plus like a retribution, you can quite literally make both their trap cards redundant. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, and then round four, it looks like you went against Snake Eye. You 2-0'd them after winning die roll. You love to see it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is what we love to see. It was a game one puppet, which he couldn't play around. And then I think game two, this if I could draw like this every single time, I felt bad for this guy afterwards. And we kind of laughed about it in the end, but I think I had like droplet evenly, like I think it was foolish as well, and Aluba. So it was just kind of obviously the evenly, and then chain the droplet to kind of negate the SP, and just kind of able to kind of clear the board. Um, and I think I had a small mishap where he kept the set, and I was kind of in my head. I think I had Albion plus Foolish, so I was kind of there like, oh, maybe I Foolish, censored old dragon to pop the back row, but I was like, no, actually, because if I Luba, and I should have saw that line, but it's fine because he did have skill drain, but I was able to kind of search brand infusion by Foolish in the Saronir and then the Albion to send to get brand infusion, and I was able to kind of then do it that way and kind of go through, and he couldn't play under the skill drain anyways, so it was fortunately count. But yeah, it was pretty good hand for all things considered.
Very nice, very nice. And then round five, it looks like you got Chimera. You went against Chimera after winning the die roll 2-1.
Yeah, and again, this was actually a really scary matchup, Chimera. So I was very fortunate to win the die roll here. So as I say, game one, it was the puppet, and he was on a 50 card list. So I was very much thinking, oh, this is the mirror. And fortunately for me, he tried to play on my turn, which I was able to see that it was Chimera. So it kind of gave me that hindsight into siding. But yeah, so it was kind of the puppet lock game one. Game two, it was very similar in the fact of he then full comboed me. But what's really scary I find about Chimera is I've forgotten what it's actually called, but it's their new illusion monster that means you have to set your quick plays or your spells and traps before using them. So it's like kind of an anti-spell.
Diabels. Diabels,
Diabel,
yeah.
yeah, Diabels, that's it. And yeah, I find that card so scary. And
Sorry about that. Yeah, no. So, yeah, no, sorry, someone was talking to me in the other room, so I just kind of lost my train of thought. But
so I think you're on mute now, mate. I didn't.
Oh, oh yeah. Okay, yeah. No, we're here. We just had a little mishap, but no, yeah. Chimera's actually like ever since Diabels came out, that's been quite an annoying matchup. Like I played against that YCS India quite a lot, and losing die roll can be very punishing in that matchup, to be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And then round six, you went against Runic Stun. Lost the die roll as well, my man. You're going through the gauntlet here.
Yeah. I mean, it was a scary one. I mean, I think it was a bit foggy, but again, it was very similar into the fact of Brandon Red and Droplet really do carry these matchups. And I think Furious Dragon also did a massive part in this one. I don't think again there was anything too spectacular about our first two games, but I think game three was our real grind. And I think in the end, I managed to get him through all three Hugin with Furious, and I managed to then drop the Harpies, which kind of did the clear up. It was nice. It was nice.
You played the long game on that one.
Yeah, it was a long one. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So you got that one, and then you went. You did the double up for a buck and went against round seven stun. It wasn't runic stun though. What kind of stun?
No, this was this was the pure stun. You know, we're talking barrier statues, the ecclesias, the dogmatica. Yeah, it was pure stun. But yeah, I think game one he didn't really have anything. He had no barrier statues. It was just ecclesia and like judgments and whatnot, and I was able to kind of just push through really on that one. And then game two was pretty similar. He just didn't have anything, and again, on if you look at my side deck, I had quite a few board breakers. Dark rulers can become quite fundamental in that match up as well. So it all kind of came through there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then round eight, you win against Snake Eye after winning the tie roll. These Snake Eye players cannot catch a break against you because you
Yeah,
2-0'd them.
yeah. I mean, yeah, and again, this pretty much the same kind of the same fundamental. Yeah, we puppeted in game one, and game two. Unfortunately, he did not draw a very good hand at all. So yeah, but yeah, that's but we take those,
For sure, that's Yu-Gi-Oh, And then next round though, Snake Eye player, round nine, you win against Snake Eye, you lost die roll. How did this game go for you?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it didn't go as well. So I was against a former Nats champion himself, Marcus Patel, so a really good player. Yeah, and I think game one, he ended on the Apo, and this was just a really clunky hand for me. I think from what I remember, it was like I had one opening, it was my only spell, and then my five other were monsters. So the Apo just put in so much work for him, and I just couldn't push through it, unfortunately. And then kind of game two, my hand was it was it wasn't great, but he did have three hand traps which I couldn't just push through. I think I ended on like a Quem, which then again he impermed on his turn, and then I was like, oh damn, okay. And then I think he went bonfire for Snake Eye Ash. So obviously he's got like two cards in his hand at this point. I'm like, okay, right. If I make a Stapelia, and I can kind of I don't know why I made the Stapelia, and in hindsight it wasn't the best play, but then he then impermed the Stapelia again and then normal the Ash and went full on. So it was just an unfortunate one at that really.
Yeah, no, that'll happen against a deck like Snake Eye. So, I completely understand that. And then, what was your matchup after that?
Yeah, so I played the mirror at this point, and yeah, this was one of a crazy game because I think game one he won the die roll, he puppeted me. But what I did is I used my draw phase priority to go to activate opening. Um, so basically, because he didn't have Sanctifier up at this point, and I knew that he had the full setup for it, but I needed to get a Quem in rotation in order to set up the puppet lock on his turn. I mean, I can't remember exactly what it is because I had Frost for duplication, as well. So basically, so obviously he puppeted me, but I was able to kind of on the crackback kind of fusion duplication, and then kind of some of my own sanctifier. And then I think what I did was I Quem brought back my own Cartesia, fused off his puppet and my Cartesia into a Grand Guignol, and then able to puppet him on the crackback. And then I just kind of picked apart his board after that point, and it was nice. It was
That's
nice.
really clean. That's really clean.
Yeah,
And then game
yeah,
one, did you just puppet him and that was it?
yeah. And
Or
then
sorry,
the
game two. Sorry, game two.
yeah, game two. Unfortunately, he bricked. He was on a 60 list, and I think that was one of the parts of the 60 list you are more likely to kind of get those clunky hands. And unfortunately he had one of them. So it was pretty clean off that. Yeah.
Yep. And so then, so we got the mirror. The mirror match is always like dreaded for me because if you lose die roll, especially, I feel like you're at an uphill disadvantage. But the fact that you used your technicality to really just like play around that loss, get something in rotation, then obviously play through that, and then using their puppet, is always just like the best thing. So, and then your last round of Swiss was round 11 against Fire King Snake Eye. You lost the die roll, and that was 0-2 loss on that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
That's a tough matchup to lose die roll against. Honestly, were they on the skill drain build?
Um, yeah. So I didn't see a skill drain, but basically, I had a much better line game one. So basically, so what it I think my only board breaker I had was talents. So I was able to kind of get him to do something, and I remember I activated talents, and he kind of just linked everything away into a goddess. And yeah, I don't know why I didn't do it, but in hindsight, then then I took his Z Atlantis, and because obviously I couldn't take the goddess. But what I should have done then is I had brand infusion, so I should have um, used Mirror Jade and then crashed into his goddess, and then in the end phase, some of my own give well yeah use Mirror Jade to destroy, then use talents to let him back have the Z Atlantis, and then summon the Albaz off the Titaniclad and fuse that way to kind of clear the board. But yeah, I saw the line afterwards, and it was unfortunate really. It was on the bubble, so you got the stresses and whatnot of it going on. But fortunately for me, I did yeah we snuck in, but yeah.
Hell yeah. And that leads us to top 64, where you had another branded mirror match, where you lost die roll, my man. You are killing these mirror matches.
Yeah, yeah. So again, this was it was so he went for the puppet lot, and his hand was kind of weak, so he wasn't able to put Lost up with it. It was quite clunky. And fortunately, I had droplet, so I think he went for like Lubellion on my turn with fusion duplication. I just was able to droplet and went really hard and kind of push through and kind of get to him in that game. And then game two was a little bit similar, but his hand was a lot stronger. There was some back and forth, but and then we went into game three, and it was tight because I think there was 6 minutes left on time or something like that. And rather than going for the puppet line, which I could have done, I went for a masquerade kind of line and kind of surviving, which I managed to kind of survive the onslaught because I think if I remember right, he had like two bestials. So I was very, that was something I thought about when going for a puppet line, because if I actually did, I'd have been really punished by it, I think. So yeah, kind of came through clutch really on that one.
Yeah, no, I think that actually goes to show that like a lot of people I've seen just kind of tunnel vision into the puppet, and when you're in that an event, a tournament with a time limit, especially, you kind of have to be you have to think of what is going on in the board state and like what you can do, because a lot of the time just going to masquerade and being able to trade with them is a lot better. Like just not tunnel visioning on that puppet is really important. So I think I'm glad you had you shared that with us. And then top 32 was against Tenpai, and you lost die roll. These die rolls have not been forgiving.
No, no. But Tenpai, this was the matchup I wanted all day. I don't. It's just because you always win the die roll against them,
Yep.
And I hadn't had any all day, and they've been around me all week. But yeah, this guy, this Tempo was the soundest guy I played all week. We had a great laugh. So I think game one it was the puppet, and then game two so he went heat wave, chain shifter, and
Oh
then
no.
props for six to add Ash, and I went, oh man, you're feeling safe, and he was able to kind of kill me there, and then I think game three, this was quite intense, and I think it was why I was really happy to have the dim barrier in my side deck, because um, basically he went shifter, so I was able to go first shifter, but I think I was able to thrust for the dim barrier, which was so clutch, because otherwise I would have, he would have killed me really, because I couldn't set up a puppet lock or anything, and I was quite bold in just passing on an empty board, because he has to have a crazy hand in order to kill it. It was a kind of one of those situations of better have it, and he didn't. I was just able to kind of kill him on the crackback. So yeah, it was pretty crazy, but yeah, that's why the dim barrier was so clutch in the side deck really.
Wow, that's really nice, because I know some people have been telling me to cut the dim barrier, but I feel like for Tenpai specifically in this situation, and this comes up a lot with it being like the second one, this like probably the second most represented deck. So it's just like, yeah, no, really important point. It's like a one of, you're not sacrificing too much space, and it works in other matchups too. So very important point.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we get that leaves us to top 16. You get to get some revenge on Snake Eye. You win die roll. How did this game go?
yeah. And so pretty much, I think he was on more of a board breaker approach, which obviously it all comes into favor for us here. But so yeah, game one, able to facilitate a strong puppet lock. Nothing really to be said on that one. But and then game two, I think my hand was pretty good, but I think yeah, again, I knew he had a set card, and it turned out to be skill drain what it was, and he was playing around thrust so well because I had thrust in my hand. I really wanted to get value off this evenly matched, but he just didn't let me have it. Which shout outs to him because it really did win in this game because I could have kind of cleared that up quite nicely. But yeah, he didn't, and he played around it really well, which took us into game three. And again, I think he had a Veiler, but I was able to kind of push through that and kind of up it. So
You'll love it. You'll love it. And that
yeah,
leaves us to top eight, where you get to go against Tenpai once again, losing die roll. But obviously, they probably just gave you first, unless they. I mean, when you get into an event like this, though, it might get interesting because like people might know what you're on. Like so, like maybe a Tenpai player might give you first. I'm not, or who knows, or might give you or might go first rather. I'm not sure. But how did this game go?
yeah. So I did get to go first, but um, so he actually had a really well timed. I think it was Veiler and Morna, so I wasn't able to kind of set up the board that I wanted to, and so he actually ended up taking game one because I wasn't able to kind of get to a puppet lock. I wasn't able to end on enough interruptions, and the field spell. So he was able to kind of. Also, I was able to set up like kind of a Rin Brum, bring back Albaz on his turn. He was able to make the 10 and with the field spell, so I just wasn't able to kind of interact with him. So he played that really well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then kind of, I think game two, we went into a bit of a grind. Whilst I was able to puppet him, we went into kind of a long back and forth on this. So, but he eventually went to game three, letting me go first. And again, what I did is it was a bit similar to kind of my top 64 match. I think we had like 6 7 minutes on the clock, and rather because I thought, what's he side decking? He's going to be putting in Bestials, Crows, whatever. And I went for a very similar kind of line in the fact of I went, for a masquerade kind of setup with Mirror Jade, and then a few interruptions with Brandon and Red and whatnot. And again, it really paid off because what I think it's easy to say, but like when you get to like a really pressured scenario with 6 minutes and people stare down a masquerade, people start making decisions under pressure, and that really showed. I think by the time I passed turn to him, we were like a minute 30 at this point, and yeah, he had to throw cards down, and it really came in clutch there, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I think that goes to show, guys, don't leave home without Masquerade. And then we get to top four, which was Labyrinth. I didn't even realize there was Labyrinth in top four. That's really interesting. You won die roll. How did this game go? Which is traditionally, I think, maybe a tougher matchup for Branded because of the D barrier in the main decks this format.
Yeah, and so this was actually a feature match, and again, I didn't know this guy was on Labyrinth either because I heard that, well, like one of my friends said, oh, there's two Snake Eye and Plant in Top Cut, so I was like, oh, okay, so I know what, and it was not Snake Eye at all. So I think what I saw like on the feature matches, I kind of had a really good setup. To play around multiple things, and even went, I think Butler to set a TT when I activated a Cartesia in summon, yeah, a Cartesia in hand, um, but which I was really surprised for TT, and my heart kind of did drop when I saw the Butler something. Oh no, he's got a dim barrier or something. But yeah, I think I was able.
Torrential
He did flip up
Tribute?
the TT. Yeah,
Torrential
torrential
Tribute.
tribute. Yeah, which is, but I think he did it a little bit early. But again, I had opening engraved, so it really
Didn't
couldn't have put in
matter.
any work really at all. And I was able to kind of go for because I was going to set up a puppet lock. To be honest with you, because I thought it was Snake Eye, and so I was able because I saw that I was able to kind of facilitate that in a different way and just end on a lot more interruptions. So that was kind of that. Um, Game two, as I say on the feature match, you can see he had like double dim barrier set at all times. Like this, he played it well in the fact of just not letting me get anything going. So yeah, he played that well. And then game three, so as you could kind of, if any of you watch the feature match, you could kind of see that I set up kind of a similar line, that he went battle phase, and I think so. But what I did is I drew Brandon Red, fortunately, but I went and set Retribution off of my Albion as well, just for that extra protection. So he, any welcome trap or anything was kind of turned off, and I was able to kind of set up. So I went Sanctifier to block because he threatened battle phase. Whether he had even, well, he did have evenly, but again, is a lot of people can bluff it. Is another consideration as well. But yeah, and I was just able to kind of set it up because I knew that making a Furious the turn afterwards. So I gave him my Albion, and there's always a consideration that he could have made an SP, but then again, if you give him the Albion, you're getting so much value back, so it really doesn't matter too much in that side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So very very nice, very nice. And then you ended up getting that, obviously. And for the finals, which everybody got to watch, there were so many people watching the live stream. It was crazy. It was against Jess Robinson on Plants, and you won the die roll. And do you have any thoughts on your finals?
I tell you that this was the most important die roll of all day. I mean, if I think counting my die rolls, I would have been, I wasn't. I did lose a lot of my die rolls, but I'm so glad I won this one. This was the most important one. I mean, me and Jess said at the start, we were like, "This is an important die roll." And I understand the puppet lock is, we know it's a really powerful, but the plant end board is crazy as well. I mean, I think, in game two, I think I had droplet, and I'm like, this isn't enough, and I did use droplet, but I think I counted after I dropleted for four, there was still like four interruptions, which is crazy, a crazy amount. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think you needed like evenly in that hand to like kind of really make a dent, and that's just
Yeah.
such a like
Yeah.
a good luck getting to that kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
very much, yeah, like whoever would have won die roll was going to be a big advantage. It's like the mirror match. Like, you lost a bunch of die rolls in the mirror match. There is, you could, if you're able to navigate your way, but it's just like, I think you did very well. And that if it, it's just kind of, it is kind of what it is with those. And like, if plant sets up a board that is essentially just FTK, in my opinion. So it
Yeah.
is kind of just, very similar builds. It's very cool. I think, like, I've seen the 60 card plant list, and they almost kind of build like the 60 card branded list. So I think, that's just kind of how those matchups go. Like, I play them on DB all the time, and if I lose die roll, I know I'm not in for a good time. So it's I think, after losing so many die rolls, I'm I'm glad that was the one you ended up winning. So
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Fortunately.
yeah, no, and you played insane, brother. It went to game three, and definitely just congratulations to you on your incredible performance. If you have time, I have like two viewer questions if you wanted to ask or answer them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Feel free, man. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, great. I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but I did ask, and I have
Yeah. We're all good, man. Yeah. I've got all the time in the world. You're right.
all right, great. Yeah, no. So we have a question from Maxi. It's for Rob. What happens if the die roll was not in your favor? Can you like kind of like can you still? This was kind of, I guess, like in reference to the game with Jess, like kind of, if it goes to like why I said with actually the evenly, if you had seen evenly in that hand, would that have been a different game? Maxi's kind of asking.
Yeah, and I was very much, because I was looking at my opening five cards, and I didn't have droplet in that hand, but I was hoping for like a thrust or something to go with, because again, if you have any combination of Dark Ruler droplets with thrust slash evenly, I think it could have been it could be a breakable board, but it's a lot of what ifs there, isn't it? And that's what you got to hope for, though, is a combination of the two really there. I mean, you can't really play around that. I mean, as I said, with the branded mirror, there is some interactive in the branded mirror, because you've got your fusion duplications and whatnot. So there is some playing on the opponent's turn, because fusion duplications are either grave, so you can always hit their branded fusion and kind of play on their turn as well. So it's a surprising amount of interaction that you can kind of get in the branded mirror there.
Yeah, no, for sure, actually. And I think once like the puppet actually gets taken out of the equation, and in that mirror, the mirror becomes quite skillful and very grindy and very technical. So, and that's what happens actually. Definitely not not insignificant amount of of the time. But yeah, no, great answer. And then we have a question from Jilly. What a question for Rob? What matchups were you most concerned about? Did you have a game plan for those? And would love insight around beating the Sinful Keeper card. I think they're talking about the Diabels.
So yeah, took literally the words out of my mouth there. That was a matchup I was really scared of, because it's really hard to, because I think sometimes you've got to build a deck the best you can, and I think that Chimera was very much on my radar of something that I'm really unfortunate to play against, but also your side deck can't cover everything, and it was against my side. It was beat for Snake Eye, for the mirror match, for control, and that was kind of what most of that is. I mean, I think from my side pattern, I think we were looking at like the Ashes and like but which is like the most impactful that you can really against that matchup, because if you can get an Ash on a Sword Knight, or you can get an Ash on the King, it does do some work in there, but that was kind of the most scary matchup. But yeah, that is a scary one.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And what you mentioned side patterns there. That's something I forgot to actually ask you when we were on the side deck. What were your general side pattern? Like, do you have cards that you always could side out going second, and did you have sides or cards that you could always side out going first for people looking at to use your build and like wondering what the side patterns are?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, so going second, most of my side patterns, it was taking up the one Quem, because you only really need one if you're kind of comboing, because you're not going for your turn one board, if you will. So it was the one Quem. I did one Cartesia because I was on free, and you're going second, so you've drawn the extra card, so it's more likely that you're going to get that anyways. It was one High Spirits, just because it was a nice card just to side out. You can search it if you need it. I think it was one Macoria, just because you don't, the second one you're not really going to use it to kind of on your end board. And I'm trying to I've got to look at my list now. I think it's easy for me to look at it that way. I remember the other stuff. One Gold Sark, just because consistency. You're taking out Macoria, so that was that. Let me look at my list for the other stuff.
There's also probably
Oh,
some just like depending, like you take out the Magnuma in the matchups that aren't
yeah,
relevant. So
yeah, and sometimes I'm not sure, this could be a bit controversial, but I quite like taking out the Lubellian, just because it can where lost, setting up lost isn't as important going second. So it was you can just send a Cartesia off of your your fusion anyways, to facilitate the light and get access that way. But that was also a card that I quite like looking at siding out there. um yeah, and I think that's kind of the six or the 6-7. So I think that covers it. But yeah, the mag, Lubellian, the Macoria, the Quem, the Cartesia, looking at taking out there. So
okay, and then did Droplet did that ever go out for the fusion duplications, or in the D barrier, or was it just like depending on the matchup you would like decide what to side out going first?
yeah, so I liked siding out the droplets for the fusion duplications, just because whilst droplet is strong, it was just kind of, I didn't want it to have as consistent as possible there really. And there were, yeah, and that's kind of it. Whilst droplet is strong, I'm trying to do one thing here. And then that's kind of with that, and the fusion duplications just kind of help you push through really. So that's kind of how I justified that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I really do appreciate your time, Rob. It's an hour. I don't want to take up too much more of your day, but thank you very much for coming on the channel and talking about your deck and your matchups and giving people insight into your theory. I think people are really gonna love this. So, I just wanted to say from me and everybody in the brand community, congratulations on your killer win. And we're very much looking forward to if you end up going to Euros, what you do at Euros, and everything in the future. So congratulations, man.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, great. And also, any place that people can like catch you on, like Twitter, YouTube, or just anything like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm happy for people to drop stuff in the comments. I'm more happy to kind of, any burning questions. But and if not, if you need to get me, I suppose you can get me on Facebook. I mean, everyone knows my name by this point, I suppose. So
There we go. So with that being said, we'll be seeing you guys later. Make sure to leave a like and comment down below what you guys thought of Rob's killer first place UK Nats deck list, and we will be seeing you guys later. Have a good day.